Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. You're listening to Wake Up. Really appreciate you staying on today. It's a State of the Union, everybody, but the White House finding a struggle, and that is leaking. Insane amounts of leaking. Really getting under the president's skin at the moment. Also, we're talking about some other things, talking about what's going on around the globe, who bringing who to the speech, and a lot more. So, yeah, we start off at the State of the Union. So, and at the White House here, President Trump is supposed to own the news cycle today when he will deliver his third joint address to Congress. The occasion is prepackaged to allow the president to sell a positive message around his administration's successes and lay out a compelling agenda for the year ahead, something for Congress to rally around. The State of the Union might have been a constitutional obligation, but it's a speech that Trump has been looking forward to, according to Annie Carney and Maggie Haberman, for all the pomp and circumstance that accompany it with some reverence. But behind the scenes, chaos is roiling in the White House once again after a prolific leak to Axios on Sunday of Trump's private schedule for the past 3 months. Everything he's been doing. The problem, though, is it showed the president spends 60% of his scheduled hours in what former chief of staff John F. Kelly very memorably dubbed executive time, which pretty much means sit in your room, watch TV, don't do anything. And everyone knows that's what he's doing. He's pretty much being useless in the residence, and it's very, very embarrassing. But yeah, Trump really might want to apply that Marie Kondo method to tidy up his White House, but keeping only those staffers who spark joy and who like you. So yeah, the West Wing is really distinguished by its prolific leaks, especially of this president, more like any other. But most notable about this one is that aides inside and outside the White House, inside and outside the West Wing, is not the substance of the leak, but the tremendous amount of effort it must have taken to execute it. Clouding aides' attempts to sell Trump's sincere appeal to broaden his government coalition, White House officials instead spent much of Monday defending the president's work ethic and downplaying the nature of the leak. President Trump has a different leadership style than his predecessors, and the results speak for themselves. Sarah Sanders said he spends much of his average day in scheduled meetings, events, and calls. There is time to allow for more creative environment to help make Trump the most productive president in modern history. Okay. Yeah, so more stuff from Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying, quote, literally, that Trump is the most productive president in modern history. Okay, yeah, that's where we are on that. So there's several different schedules available to various contingencies who work with Trump, according to the White House officials, and who said the ones that were leaked were the most basic and widely available. The other schedules include a planning one detailing confirmed and proposed events on to 2 months that can take place 1 to 2 months in advance, and a classified schedule which lists additional private details of Trump's day and is made only available to maybe 24 staffers, according to a former White House official. So yeah, that basic schedule, though, was pretty much all anyone needed to really understand the amount of time that Trump is spending not doing anything. Yeah, so 380 people have access to that broader schedule. Very few have access to the other detailed schedule. Kellyanne Conway told reporters on Monday, Trump does many different things here throughout the day. For example, the New York Times' 90-plus minute interview. I didn't go back and look at the particular schedule, but it might have said meeting, engagement. It might have said executive time, but you all know what happened. A former White House staffer told the Washington Post that this is the Tom Brady of leaking. This is pulling off something equivalent to a Tom Brady of leaking. So this is literally every single schedule, every single thing that he's done since November, and they decide to compile that and leak it to the Post, or to Axios. And still, it is an insane feat that really many people in Washington were just taken away and blown off their feet by, which is it's really very rare to see that. It's not a big deal, but pretty much the point you need to know is he is spending a lot of time doing nothing, and a lot of people are pretty pissed. Former White House official under the Obama administration, Jen Psaki, spent 8 years in and out of the last White House and received the daily schedule. The notion that executive time includes important calls or meetings is wrong. Internal policy meetings, calls with important people, are always on the schedule. So, yeah. For example, a look of a schedule would be pretty much executive time is pretty much any time where like the president's alone and really not doing anything. For example, in one day where he traveled, he had some executive time on the plane. He had some executive time when he was going to back in November when he was going to Tokyo and Honolulu. We also had some executive time in the White House, a video recording with Hope Hicks, and more executive time for an hour. So, 60% of time is an executive time. But still, it's a pretty incredible amount. So, nonetheless, Trump does intend to preach unity when he steps onto the House podium tonight. Here's what to expect. Trump is expected to reaffirm his demand for Congress to support his hardline immigration agenda and offer a robust defense of foreign policy initiatives that have engendered fierce criticism from Democrats. Trump's threat to declare a national emergency to build his border wall is still very much on the table, but he's not explicitly expected to declare one tonight, so no broad declarations here at this State of the Union. Here's the thing. Andy Carney and Mike Cameron report the speech writing has been overseen by Stephen Miller. Oh, dear. A little bit of continuation from yesterday's theme on the Hill right now is the disunited states, as Trump has good reason to embrace tonight's big speech. The description of the address, outlined by Congressional Research Service in 2015, reads like Trump's ultimate constitutional fantasy. Standing before the American public to deliver the annual address, the president combines several constitutional roles: chief of state, chief executive, chief diplomat, commander-in-chief, and chief legislator. Besides delivering State of the Union, there is no annual opportunity for the president to showcase his entire arsenal of constitutional powers. So Trump's like, yeah, cool, sign me up. But the speech, which is not primarily a partisan speech or document, is supposed to be framed in a consensus-building way, a typical task for a president and speechwriter laser focus on the divisive topic of immigration or a potential national emergency. So this is going to be something that, like, literally, they have to do the really unenviable task of convincing people in a non-divisive way to do something that they obviously don't want to do. So Paul Kane writes that, of the Washington Post, wrote that rather than finding your bipartisan seatmate, rank-and-file lawmakers now get strategic advice about how to use their one guest ticket as a political message to show their opposition to the opposing party. Guests are a big thing, he writes. And I think we all know Trump and Melania have brought in guests. The House Democrats, the Senate Democrats, there's a lot of guests being brought for political purposes. Democrats and Republicans have really tailored their guest lists to have maximum impact. I like this one here from The Intercept's Ida Chavez, reported that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will be bringing Ana Maria Arquilla, a Queens woman who actually is from her district that famously confronted Arizona Senator Jeff Flake in a Capitol Hill elevator. If you don't remember that, I'm sure it's very much prevalent online. So, interesting stuff here on the other side. One of the Trump and First Lady Melania Trump's guests will be 6th grader Joshua Trump, who's been bullied because of his last name, and obviously no relation to the Trumps. So, it's kind of a funny story there. Along with Alvin Hernandez, who's a special agent at the Department of Homeland Security, pretty much stuff you would kind of expect there. Heather Armstrong and Madison Armstrong, family members of a Nevada couple whose authorities say were killed by an undocumented immigrant, according to the Post's Eli Rosenberg. The Democrats are refusing to attend. There are some who are refusing to attend Trump's address altogether. John Lewis, Hank Johnson, Earl Blumenauer, and Steve Cohen will all be skipping out on Tuesday's event. The thought of spending Tuesday at the House chamber listening to this reckless, self-centered man who occupies the White House holds no interest to me. Just like in past years, I plan to skip a speech that will be filled with lies, deception, and divisiveness. So, yeah, there you have it. We now move from pomp and circumstance and fancy speeches to investigations, as Federal prosecutors executed a sweeping request for documents related to donations, specifically anything related to foreign contributors and spending by President Trump's inaugural committee on Monday in New York. So yeah, they're pretty much subpoenaing everything to do with this crazy inaugural committee that raised an insane amount of money. A lot of it was from some foreign sources, and the Attorney General of New York wants to know a lot more about that. So yeah, a wide-ranging subpoena served on the inaugural committee Monday seeks an array of documents, including information, this is again according to the Washington Post, quote, an array of documents, including all information related to inaugural donors, vendors, contractors, bank accounts of the inaugural committee, and information related to foreign contributors to the committee, according to the copy reviewed by the Washington Post. The subpoena issued by the United States Attorney's Office of the Southern District of New York indicates that prosecutors are investigating crimes related to conspiracy to defraud the United States, mail fraud, false statements, wire fraud, and money laundering. So this could get serious. So a long time, some of Trump's closest allies and Trump have felt that the biggest threat to him has been this Southern District of New York campaign, as we are really about to see why. I think that's very, very important to realize, and something to watch is going to be what happens here with some of the stuff going on, and some of the stuff that goes on with this inaugural committee, because it was just so weird on every level. It raised an insane amount of money. It didn't really spend all of it, and no one knew what it was doing after that. Some people thought it was going to pay for, like, everyone's legal fees, or what? No one really knew. Literally, no one really knew. So, that was kind of the case. But now we're on the verge, I think, of finding a lot more about what in the world is going on with this Trump inaugural committee. All right. So now, as we know, in the agencies that really need to hire some people, permanent leadership at the agencies, some of these agencies, I think almost all of them, remain to some degree unfilled. A lot of them have less than 50% filled. For example, labor, justice, and the interior, all about 43, 41, and 41% filled respectively. And some of them even lack leaders for full time. Trump finally nominated David Bernhardt to be Ryan Zinke's permanent replacement as the Interior Secretary, but the vacancies this administration have piled up, and top congressional Republicans are starting to worry, which is pretty insane because they're supposed to be the small government people. So by the numbers, though, according to the Washington Post, the Partnership for Public Service, the White House has not bothered to nominate people for 150 out of 705 confirmed positions. 3 departments are facing a particularly high number of vacancies. Only 41% Interior Justice Departments. Senate confirmed posts have been filled. Again, as I said before, 43 of such positions have been filled at the Labor Department. So the third highest ranking position at the Justice Department, which, just like the Interior Department, has been operating without a permanent secretary for weeks, has been vacant for nearly a year with no nominee in sight. So that seems to be a little bit of a problem there. Republican senators have been particularly alarmed by the vacancy over at the Pentagon. No surprise there. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis resigned in December, and they've apparently urged Trump to pick a permanent replacement. So yeah, still no replacement yet over at Defense. So some Republicans have lobbied on behalf of potential Mattis successors in a private phone call shortly after Mattis announced his impending departure. Joni Ernst urged Trump to nominate Air Force Secretary Heather Wilson, who would be the first woman to head the Pentagon. But still, no sign from Trump on what he wants to do there. All right. We head outside the Beltway now to Virginia. Ralph Northam, as of this live broadcast, is still governor. So, yeah, he's hanging in there. This does surprise a lot of people, mostly because the news cycle moves fast and a controversy like this is toxic, and everyone except Joe Lieberman pretty much says he should step down. But the Virginia governor was hanging on, if only by a thread, this morning. Northam gathered staffers Monday morning told them that he was still weighing options, according to reports.